COVID-19 has disrupted billions of lives and endangered the global economy. As job losses escalate, the International Labour Organization estimates that nearly half of the global workforce is at risk of losing their livelihoods. Even before the outbreak of COVID-19, 1 in 5 countries, home to billions of people living in poverty, were likely to see per capita incomes stagnate or decline in 2020. Now, the economic and financial shocks associated with COVID-19, such as disruptions to industrial production, falling commodity prices, financial market volatility, and rising insecurity, are derailing the already tepid economic growth and compounding heightened risks from other factors. While developing countries have grown at a rate faster than developed regions, sustained economic growth everywhere will be critical to fulfilling our international developmental targets over the next 15 years. Economic growth, making our world more prosperous, is inextricably linked to all our other priorities. Stronger economies will afford us more opportunities to build a more resilient and sustainable world. And economic growth must be inclusive. Growth that does not improve the well-being of all sections of society, especially the most vulnerable, is unequal and unfair. No one left behind is at the core of the Sustainable Development Agenda for 2030, and if economic growth is to build a fairer world, it must be inclusive. This is the idea behind Goal 8, which aims to sustain an economic growth rate of 7% for the least developed countries by 2030, and achieve full and productive employment for all men and women everywhere in the next 15 years. Nearly 736 million people live below poverty line, and that poverty eradication is only possible through stable and well-paid jobs. Let's have a look into the targets of SDG8. 8.1. Sustaining economic growth per capita according to national circumstances and, in particular, an annual growth of at least 7% of gross domestic product, GDP, in less developed countries. 8.2. To achieve higher levels of productivity of the economies through diversification, technological modernization and innovation, including through a focus on high value-added sectors and intensive sectors in manpower. 8.3. Promote policies aimed at developing to support productive activities, decent job creation, entrepreneurship, creativity and innovation, and encourage the formalization and growth of micro, small and medium enterprises, including through access to financial services. 8.4. Gradually improve by 2030 the efficiency of global resource consumption and production, and strive to decouple economic growth from environmental degradation, according to the 10-year plan programs on sustainable consumption and production, with developed countries taking the leadership. 8.5. By 2030, achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men, including young people and people with disabilities, and equal pay for work of equal value. 8.6. By 2020, substantially reduce the proportion of young people without employment, education or training. 8.7. Take immediate and effective measures to eradicate forced labor, end modern slavery and human trafficking, and secure the prohibition and elimination of the worst forms of child labor, including recruitment and use of child soldiers, and by 2025 end child labor in all its forms. 8.8. To protect labor rights and promote safe working environments and protected for all workers, including migrant workers, particularly migrant women, and people in precarious jobs. 8.9. By 2030, develop and implement policies to promote sustainable tourism, which creates jobs and promotes the culture and local products. 8.10. Strengthen the capacity of domestic financial institutions to encourage the expansion of access to banking services, insurance and financial for all. 8.a. Increase support help initiative for trade, aid for trade, to developing countries, particularly the least developed countries, including through the Enhanced Integrated Framework for Related Technical Assistance to Trade for LDCs. 8.b. By 2020, develop and operate a global strategy for youth employment and implement the Global Jobs Pact of the International Labour Organization, ILO. There are many reasons why quality education is important. Education can be defined as the stock of skills, competencies, and other productivity-enhancing characteristics. In general, quality education, as a critical component of a country's human capital, increases the efficiency of each individual worker and helps economies to move up the value chain beyond manual tasks or simple production processes. Human capital has long been considered the most distinctive feature of the economic system, and further work has proven the impact of education on productivity growth empirically. Channels through which education affects a country's productivity are: first, it increases the collective ability of the workforce to carry out existing tasks more quickly. Second, secondary and tertiary education especially facilitate the transfer of knowledge about new information, products, and technologies. Finally, by increasing creativity, it boosts a country's own capacity to create new knowledge, products, and technologies.